Hello, this is Vakar Alisha. I am a doctoral researcher at the Center for Applied Language Studies, the University of Jyväskylä, Finland. In addition to that, I am also working as a lecturer in English at Mehran University of Engineering and Technology, Jamshoro, Pakistan. In my previous video, I just talked to you about the general guidelines related to PhD research proposal. And in this video specifically, I will be talking about the structure of your PhD proposal. And I would say that it is not universal or an ideal format or ideal structure because you always have to check with the guidelines at universities whenever you or wherever you wish to apply. And but these are, some of the general and very common, elements which are found in all, research proposal formats. So the first thing which is very important is your title. So make sure that your title of your study is very fascinating. By fascinating, I mean that it should really be attractive. It should not be lengthy enough. For example, researchers believe that an ideal topic for your study consists of 20 or less than 20 words. So make sure that it should not have more than 20 words. And see that if you can really divide your topic into like heading and subheading, and if it's a subheading, then there should be colon, and think about capitalization, which letters in the words can be capitalized. So all these things count most in your title. So it should be really effective. And once it is made, then the first important thing here is introduction. And definitely writing an introduction in your study is not easy job, because I myself feel that most of the students have a problem. They show concerns over what to include in introduction part. So I would just simply tell you one way, that is the CARS model, okay, creating a research space model. So that's a very ideal model to help you write introductions in academic articles or academic research proposals for masters or PhD admission, so that you can follow. And in your introduction part, once you have followed the CARS model, in that you always need to include your aims and objectives of the study. Or if you think that no, you can't go with aims and objectives, then think about the major research question that you want to investigate in your doctoral study. Or if you think that you cannot go with a research question, then the third option is like hypothesis. If you think that your study is quantitative, then the hypothesis can be part of it. And apart from that, you need to go for the literature review. Again, I would say literature review is a very tricky thing. We don't need to go for individual studies and their findings, literature review. But as I have suggested in my previous videos on my channel, that literature review is all about tracing out the debates and agreements in a particular field on your topic. So you need to check out what are the agreements and what are the disagreements, okay, and how can you play your role in these kind of agreement and disagreement related to your topic. So on a particular you need to find out that the camps of different thoughts on within the topic that you want to investigate, and you need to bring different studies related to each camp or each school of thought within the field that you want to situate yourself. So it's very important to learn the way to do a literature review. So I would simply recommend you to check my video, or if you have time, then you can search some good articles to read them, to learn how can we write an effective literature review. And in literature review, very important element comes, that is the niche. And niche is about the research gap, one of the things. Another thing is the extension. So you need to ask yourself whether you want to occupy a certain research gap that you have found, or you want to extend a certain tradition or certain research direction in the which is already there in your field. And when I talk about research gap, that's a very important question. It's not about the context, but it is always about it's majorly about theoretical contribution, or some theoretical questions which are unanswered, some methodological concern that you have found, okay, some empirical uh, aspects that have not been addressed yet. So there are different things that come under research gap that you need to first of all understand and then aid them in your research proposal. And after that, research methodology is very important part, because it's a kind of backbone of your study. And a university professor, when you want to send your research proposal to, they will always look at the methodology part to see, you know, uh, to assess rather where you stand. Through research methodology, they want to, assess your research knowledge. So because PhD is all about research, and therefore the university professor, they always expect you to be, well informed about the methodology that you want to imply in your study. So do not assume that your professor would know everything, already know everything about it, or the team of experts, the panel of experts, they would already know what you want to do. Definitely, you need to give minute details about each and everything in the methodology part. And never give them impression that you would be learning about methodology and all these things there when you will be doing PhD. They really need people who are already well acquainted, well familiar with the research process, and methodology, and everything, even the softwares that you may need to use. So you need to show them that yes, you already have something at your hand, and you know about them, that you will be using them. So research design should be clearly defined, whether it's a qualitative, quantitative, or a mixed method. And within that, what kind of particular method you are actually going for, whether it's an action research, it's an ethnography, or maybe you want to go for some narrative inquiry studies, or narrative analysis, or a document analysis. So be clear about a particular method that you would be uh, selecting in your study, and you have to mention and give justification for that as well. And then comes data set and data collection tools. So mention in your study about the data set, what will be the sources for your data. And definitely it depends upon the method that you want to go for. For example, if it's ethnography, your data set would majorly come from the observations, or sometimes, let's say it's a classroom, let's say ethnography, a kind of linguistic ethnography you want to go for, then classroom observation can be one of the major sources of data. But if it's action research, then the data set would be different. If it is a narrative analysis, is a document analysis, then your data set would be different. So be clear about the data set that would be part of your study. And then tools, what kind of instruments would you employ in your study to collect data, whether they would be surveys, or they would be document analysis, or they would be like interviews. And if they are interviews, what kind of interviews they are, and what kind of questions you would ask in the interviews. For example, we always just mention that the data would be collected by using such and such interviews, whether structured or semi-structured. But the professors, they are more interested to see what would be asked in the interview. So you need to create some kind of themes, okay, and mention those themes in maybe numbers, or maybe using some bullet points, or even letters A, B, C. So what themes would emerge from your data? So you can just write down, maybe you can mention them. And you can also prepare interview protocol form that you can attach in the appendix, because that's very important part, and that's something which needs to be done prior to your research. So you need to do it already, before you send it to professor, or before you actually submit it to to the university. The same goes for the quantitative data. If it is a questionnaire or survey, then don't mention only the questionnaire survey would be used, but you need to attach a complete survey. You need to attach a complete questionnaire. And if it is taken from some source, then you should already mention the source, and also about the reliability or the validity issues, about tools, whether it's an interview, is a questionnaire, it should be mentioned. And in addition to that, you need to mention about sampling procedure. Okay, what sampling techniques would you use to recruit your participants? And likewise, you need to go for the data analysis. How would you analyze your data? If it is qualitative, what qualitative data analysis procedures would be followed? And likewise, if it is quantitative, then again you need to clearly mention about which software are you going to use and what would you do in the software. So don't say only that SPSS will be used, but what would you do in SPSS? What kind of uh, data would you be analyzing? Whether it's a descriptive or it is inferential, and even within inferential analysis, what would you need actually? What kind of test would you run? So briefly, I would just say that your professor should know everything, at the table, that yes, you would be doing everything, and you're already clear about so many things, and then he or she takes interest, and they are actually willing to you know uh, willing to agree, or are willing to just take you as one of the participants, one of the supervisees. So, and apart from that, conceptual framework is very important. Uh, a theoretical or analytical framework. Without, conceptual framework, your research plan is incomplete, I would say. It's completely empty. So always, try to develop a complete conceptual framework for your study. Or if it is theoretical framework, then try to, discuss your theoretical, position. Means what kind of particular theoretical framework are you going to use? Or if you think that you have a certain model that is used as a theory and method, then you should need to mention that. And then how would you use that? Okay, what aspects of a theoretical framework would you actually use? And in my previous videos, I have already talked about the difference between conceptual and theoretical framework. So you can refer back to my channel where you will learn about CARES model, literature review. I have already talked about these particular sections, uh, how to write them in academic articles, but the same can be learned while using them in a research proposal. And apart from that, you need to uh, mention about timeline for your study. Most of the universities or the professor, they ask you to give them a clear picture of the uh, a complete phase of this study. Means how would you in how much time would you actually finish your study? So you have to divide the entire PhD study into different parts, but again try to see a certain specific or standard way, the layout for preparing a timeline, and then follow that and show them that you would be doing this in a certain phase of time. And then references. And for references, I would simply say do not copy and paste from Google Scholar or from any other research papers or any other websites, but Mendeley software is very important. Try to create your online library there, and start using it. That would be really helpful once you know about Mendeley. The citation and the reference list, which is actually produced with the help of Mendeley, that really looks very genuine, and that will look always attractive. Okay, so this is how your complete research proposal can be made. And as I said that universities, ask you for the short research proposal. So whether it is short or as a detailed, the same procedure would be followed, but maybe with some addition of more details in the detailed research plan. So thank you so much, and I wish you best of luck. And I would say that it is a very very struggling phase, I would say, because getting PhD admission or getting a scholarship is not as easy as most people perceive. It really requires hard work, commitment, and sincerest efforts on the researcher's side or researcher's part. And once you are committed and dedicated, then definitely you would be following all of these steps. And once you have prepared it, get it reviewed by one other person, and then you can send it to the professor along with your CV and a well formatted email. And I'm sure that you will really get a very good feedback and a positive response from the professors. So thank you so much.